Hey everyone, it's Mike DeZormo. We're in the north end of St. Catharines. We're gonna show you how we took this single family home and turned it into 3 above ground legal unit dwellings. Let's check it out inside. Now, how unique or different is this property compared to a lot of the other properties that you're doing and helping investors divide up?
Well, Mike, you brought this property to my attention, and it was unique in the fact that this property has had additions throughout the years. And the area that we're standing in presently this was probably the original dwelling when it was first constructed. Then I believe they added the single-story addition out towards the back. And then afterwards, I think there was a third addition, which was the second story. So when you recognized immediately that this could be converted to a 3-unit dwelling, and you brought it to my attention, I managed to wrap my head around it. You were right. And we came up with 3 great sized units.
Yeah. Because we're in the existing bungalow, not a lot of work had to happen here. We did painting throughout, we changed the flooring. Here was I don't know if you remember this done, there was a window here.
Yes.
So there was a window here and a door here. So this doorway led into sort of like the rec area of this side of the
main floor.
Of the main floor, yeah, over here. Yeah. And so we had to close that up for fire separation up to the second unit. And then this window, actually, we had to close it up because the exit to the second floor comes down the stairs here. And because there's a window here, if there was ever a fire in this unit, that was considered a concern by the city. So they wanted this blocked off so that the tenants upstairs had a clear path of exit in the event there was a fire in this unit. The unique thing about this property is a lot of the stuff was already done for us, so we didn't have to do many renovations. This has an updated kitchen. This kitchen is how we got the property.
Yeah, how many rental units have kitchens like this?
And we have 2 full bedrooms, a bathroom, and a basement in 1 unit. That's what we have here, plus a living room. Okay, we're gonna go into the second unit now. So this wasn't originally what the previous owners were using as one of their main entrances. You were to walk in here. If you go to your right, you're in the rec room. If you go to your left, you're in the kitchen. There was a window here, and this had to be closed off as a fire separation, as if in case the
exposure protection, in case for safely evacuating the second floor, using this as a proper exit, protected exit, without any exposure to the unit next door.
So what we've done is now fire rated both sides of this hallway. So closed off those doors, fire rated the separation between the 2 units. And now we have a self-contained unit. It's on the second floor. We're gonna enter in this door here and go up to the second floor now to the second unit.
Each dwelling unit has its own separate entrance.
Now this is a massive 2-bedroom, 1 bath, kitchen, massive living area over here. Another thing that's very unique about all 3 units is each unit has its own laundry. There's no shared laundry here. Laundry's gonna be around the corner here. There's a bit of dust and stuff. We're not fully finished. We're about 98% of the way there. But as you can see, we're like right at the finish line now. So the only thing that had to be done here is a couple of the rooms were painted. The balance of these cabinets were yellow, so we painted it white just to give it a more updated look, and did a separate laundry room up here. There was very little work required here to turn this unit into our second unit.
So from an investment standpoint, this was the ideal conversion. Very little construction, very little expense, and in the end, 3 very nice sized units.
Yeah. Okay, now we're in the unit that required the majority of the work. This is the unit that we needed to figure out because this third unit, if we couldn't figure this one out, this investment didn't make sense. So a lot of work and redesign and thought process has gone into this particular unit, a lot of revisits, a lot of communication between the architect, between the contractors, but we were finally able to make this work, and we couldn't be more happy than the final outcome of this design. So this was the entrance from the exterior into the house. To the left would have been the kitchen, which is now unit number 1. To the right, this would have been the living room recreation room, which is now unit 3. Fire separated this entrance here to close this off. This was a kitchenette over here. We had a pillar here as well that was in the center of the room. This was a small kitchenette. And on the other side of this wall was a bathroom. Before, there was a door here that led into that bathroom. What we figured is if we can partition this off. We could extend the size of the kitchen. It's still a tiny kitchen, but it's still of a decent size. It's gonna work for a 1-bedroom unit. And punch a hole, frame this, and this be our new opening to the bathroom. All we did is move the door here. Nothing was done to this bathroom at all. This is how we bought the house. From here, this was the exterior entrance of the home prior. We had a man door, 2 transit windows here. We extended this. This was a bifolding door that led to a closet, and this was a garage area at one point. What we've now done is open up this space, and this becomes our 1-bedroom. And it's a massive 1-bedroom, great ceiling height. These are roughly 9-foot, 10-foot ceilings. There was a door here that led into the garage. This has been closed off. The exterior has been re-sided. We have interconnected smoke detectors as part of the requirement to go to a legal 3-unit. These windows were pre-existing. We had drop-down ceilings that we had to sound channel fireproof. We have a massive closet now as well in this bedroom. In 20 years and going through thousands of houses for investors, this is by far the largest 1-bedroom apartment that I've ever set foot in. Keep in mind too that all living here is ground floor living. Nobody's living in a basement. That's hard to do. Separating one house into 2 units and not having anybody live in the basement is tough enough. This is 3 units where there's no basement living space. Not that anything's wrong with that, just most people desire to be on the main floor or just above. And yeah, in the end, that's what made this property so unique and such a great investment property. It was a bit of a jigsaw puzzle to put together, but we have done it. We're extremely happy and couldn't be more happy for the investors and the tenants that are gonna make this their home. Okay, so we had a fence here and we had an in-ground pool. And for liability purposes, we don't want that pool. So we had that pool filled in. It requires some settling. It'll be filled in again and then sodded in the spring. But John, why don't you talk about the parking requirements that were needed for the 3 units for this particular property?
Well, again, this property is unique that it has 2 parking areas, one being off this roadway and one being off the roadway to the back. So here, proper parking spaces are, every municipality has different sized parking spaces. In St. Catharines, the parking spaces have to be 8 feet 7 inches wide by 17 feet 1 inch long. Here we are able to get 2 legal proper sized parking spaces in this area. This area here that's asphalted would not be considered as this area here, even though you can park here, we're on the municipal road allowance, so you can't consider the municipal road allowance as part of your parking. But we are able to get 2 legal parking spaces here. Now, also depending on how we can, or where the new fence goes up, we might be able to accommodate another additional parking space here. But we do have parking on the other side of the dwelling as well.
What's the requirements for the 3 units in regards to parking?
3 parking spaces are required.
Okay. All right, so what we're also gonna do now is give each tenant their own backyard space. So the upper level tenants are gonna get that full patio up there. And then the lower level here, we'll divide into 2 sections so that the main floor gets access to their own private space. And then the front unit bungalow will also have their own space as well. So each unit gets their own private area for their backyard enjoyment. So as you see, this house is absolutely massive. And the problem with the city of St. Catharines is at the time that the offer was put in, there was a limit on the size of an additional dwelling unit, the square footage that we could fully finish. And that was 645 square feet.
That's correct.
So we went down to the city, John and I, we put our boxing gloves on, and we tried to make the case that this particular home was already a semi and not a single family. So the city had this property listed as a single family home. Geo Warehouse and MPAC had it listed as a semi. The city wasn't content with that. One of the other options that we had is just to prove our case that no guys, like this is a semi. This is a property that is not a single family home. There's independent heating, independent air conditioning, independent panels, but that wasn't enough for them. So what we did is we pulled out that hardcover book that the city has.
Vernon's Directories.
Okay.
We had to establish the use of the property before the zoning bylaw passed. And so by going through the Vernon's Directories, we were able to prove that there were 2 separate phone numbers and 2 different families living in this property.
Yeah. So that's what the city wanted us to prove. It's like, okay, can you guys prove that 2 different families were living in these units from a certain date? So this is the city's book that they provide. So every year, the different cities record the names and the phone numbers of residents in these homes.
Right. And it was important for us to establish that it was 2 families because at the time, the city was only permitting 1 accessory dwelling unit in an existing home, which they're currently they've changed, and the zoning bylaws again to change on February 26th. Long story short, at the time, they were only allowing 1 accessory dwelling unit, and so we had to prove our case.
So between the Vernon's directory, between Geo Warehouse saying that it's a semi, so we had the Vernon's directory that showed 2 different families lived in this home. We had the Geo Warehouse saying it was a semi, MPAC saying it's a semi. That still was not good enough with the city. So I applied for what's called the Freedom of Information Act to get the drawings for this property, because there's clearly a bungalow here and there's clearly an addition, but that addition wasn't designated as a completely separate unit with the city, and that's what we were fighting for, because if we couldn't, then we had a problem turning this family from 1 to 3 units, and that was the whole goal here. If we couldn't turn it into 3 units, it really wouldn't make sense as an investment. So with the Freedom of Information Act, the city has 30 days to provide all the drawings that they have on file for this particular address. And of course, the city being the city, they provided that on the 30th day. Looking through that, it had no drawings that were relevant to the addition on this home. So that wasn't helpful either. So our last and final resort was 1, to either wait for this bylaw to be passed, which was a gamble, or 2, apply for a variance. We applied for a variance.
Yes.
And do you want to take us through that, John?
Because the house was so large, and it was important for us to establish that the 2 existing units were greater than 645 square feet. And the unit that we were proposing to turn into another unit was under the 645 square feet maximum that the city permitted. So the city got back to us and told us it was inconclusive. As far as they were concerned, they recognized this as a single-family home, not a 2-family home, which in that case made us have to apply for a minor variance to the zoning bylaw.
But John, for those that are unfamiliar with a minor variance, what did that entail in regards to this particular property? Like, what is a minor variance and what did we have to do in regards to that process?
Sure. So Mike, we had to apply for permission to the city to allow us 2 units that are greater than what the zoning bylaw permits. The city has zoning bylaws which restrict certain usages, certain sizes, and we were proposing sizes that were greater than 645 square feet.
And then, so that's an application?
Yes, that's an application to the city requesting permission to alter the zoning bylaw.
That application involves drawings?
Drawings, that application involved me creating special drawings showing a site plan, floor plan layouts, showing the proposed 3 units in the home, 1 being the principal unit, and the other 2 being the accessory dwelling units that we were proposing to add.
Now there's a cost for the drawings, there's a cost for the application to the city.
Yes.
And then what is it, roughly every month or every 2 months that the city has this hearing?
So the city has these minor variance meetings approximately once every 6 weeks.
Okay.
So what it involves is applying for, making application for the requested changes that you're making. You have to pay a fee to the city. Then I'm required to put a sign notice in front of the property, and then the city corresponds with all of the neighboring properties. They send.
The neighbors get letters.
The neighbors get
what's
letters.
proposed for this particular address.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The residents get letters notifying them of what we're proposing for this dwelling.
Yeah, so that the residents, if they're not happy with what's going on, they have the option to come to this Committee of Adjustments hearing and raise their concerns. That did not happen. The city unanimously agreed that we can go ahead with the project here.
We were very lucky because the city planning department was very supportive of our application. First of all, it's the province's agenda to provide additional living facilities for people. And because of the housing shortage, So the planning department supported our minor variance applications. And because of that support, no neighbors showed up to the Committee of Adjustment meeting, and they approved our variances, allowing us greater square footages than what the zoning bylaw permits.
Okay, so I actually found tenants for both these units. So far I've filled the main bungalow unit and then the upper unit upstairs, the 1-bedroom main floor unit. Renovations are finally just wrapping up there. So I'm gonna be working on filling that unit next. And the way I did it is I advertised this unit and the upper unit at the same time, and regardless of what unit you were interested in, I would have everyone that was interested come out at the same time on like a Saturday morning and then tour through both units. So most people didn't even know about the other unit in the property until I would show them. And some people that were interested in the bungalow unit all of a sudden liked the upper unit, and vice versa too. So that's how I would collect applications for both units. I ended up finding 2 people that originally both wanted this unit. They got in a bidding war because they both wanted this one so badly, which bumped up the price on this main one. And then, so the highest bid got this main unit, and then the second bidders ended up going for the upper unit at another decent price as well. And I actually think both of these units would rent for more normally, but this was like mid-renovations. There was dumpsters on the driveway and contractors working, and the first unit hadn't been done yet. So it was a bit difficult, like fill conditions. So I think when when all the units in this house refill, it's actually gonna get more rent than we're getting now. But I filled this main unit for $2,400, all utilities included, and the upper unit for $2,100, all utilities included. And we're gonna be going for $1,800, at least to start, see what we get for that main 1-bedroom unit. And it's such a nice 1-bedroom unit, I think we can get it. So another thing, when I was finding tenants for this property, people absolutely love this custom kitchen. I've never seen a rental property with a custom kitchen like this. And even the upper unit was the nicest 2-bedroom unit I've ever seen. Most 2-bedroom units are actually basement apartments. So to find an upstairs 2-bedroom apartment with a huge outdoor patio, big space, huge kitchen with a big island and stuff, it's just so unique. So finding tenants for these properties was very easy. There was a ton of demand.
Okay, how the numbers work out on this property is purchase price was $940,000. Renovations were roughly $100,000. That's with permits and the minor variance and whatnot. Now, even with an interest rate at 6% in our current environment, with costs of $454 for property tax, $150 for insurance, $500 a month being allocated for utilities. With the rents that we're getting, this property cash flows $722 per month. So that's decent in this environment.
So this is the value that Rockstar Inner Circle members get, is you get hooked up with a Rockstar coach like Mike, who takes them out onto the streets, finds out what their goals are for investing in real estate, and then finds the properties that meet those goals. So for these investors, this was their first time ever purchasing a rental property. Mike was able to find the place for them. They bought the home. Then Mike was able to set them up with trusted contractors on our Rolodex that did all this work that we've worked with on tons of projects before this. Then Mike was able to hook them up with the architect that was able to make all this possible. That's John, who's in this video. Then we were able to set them up with tenant placement, where I was able to come in and find tenants for the property. And these investors had been able to kind of sit back, oversee everything going on, lean on Mike as a resource. But without these people in place, and especially Mike and John making this project possible, pulling all the crazy stuff they did to get the zoning and variances for this property, it just wouldn't be possible to do these things, especially on your first investment property. Maybe for an experienced investor who's done dozens of these types of projects, but on your first property, it's just unrealistic to be able to expect that stuff. So this is the value that you get from being a Rockstar Inner Circle member. So if you're interested in learning more about the Rockstar Inner Circle and working with the Rockstar coach, building a rental portfolio so you too can live life on your terms, shoot us an email, members@rockstarbrokerage.com. Phone us, myself or Ashley on the membership team will pick up, answer your call, and answer any questions you have about the membership. Or we're gonna drop a link in the description for this video that takes you to rockstarinnercircle.com and shows you all the benefits that you get by being a Rockstar Inner Circle member. We're happy to answer any questions you have and happy to help you live your life on your terms.